12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan Peterson. Hey there, welcome. Picture yourself at 2 in the morning, staring into the refrigerator. Not because you're hungry, but because you need something to make sense of the chaos in your head. What if I told you a clinical psychologist from Canada wrote a book that starts with lobsters and ends with the profound question of what it means to live a good life in a world designed to break us? That book is 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos by Jordan Peterson. This isn't typical self-help. It's part biology, part philosophy, part tough love letter to a generation struggling to find meaning. Over the next hour, we're going to explore all 12 rules, not as a checklist, but as a journey into the deepest questions we ask ourselves when no one's listening. So grab your coffee and let's figure out what Jordan Peterson really means when he tells us to clean our rooms. Rule 1. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Let's start with something weird. Lobsters. Peterson opens with these crusty, bottom-dwelling creatures because they've been around for 350 million years. And they have something disturbing in common with us: serotonin. When a lobster wins a fight, its brain floods with serotonin. It stands taller, becomes more confident, more likely to win the next fight. But when it loses, serotonin drops. The lobster hunches over, retreats, becomes what Peterson calls defeated. It literally shrinks. Your brain works the same way. Walk into a room with shoulders back, head high. Your serotonin increases, cortisol decreases. You become more confident not just mentally, but physically. But Peterson goes deeper. Hierarchies aren't just social constructs. They're ancient, biological, selected for over hundreds of millions of years. Even lobsters recognize dominance structures. So what do you do with this? You voluntarily accept your burden. You stand up straight. You face the world with eyes open. Because the alternative, hunching over, playing victim, is a biological recipe for disaster. Standing up straight isn't about climbing the social ladder. It's about responsibility. It's saying to the universe, I'm here, I matter, I'm willing to take on what life throws at me. Life is suffering. It's unfair. But you have a choice. Stand up and face it, or curl into a ball and wait for it to get worse. Your neurobiology has been preparing you for this battle for millions of years. Stop fighting your own nature. Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Why is it easier to fill your dog's prescription than your own? People are significantly more likely to fill prescriptions for their pets than themselves. You'll drive through a snowstorm for your dog's antibiotics, but can't remember your own blood pressure meds. Peterson suggests we secretly believe we don't deserve care. After Adam and Eve gained knowledge, they became aware of their vulnerability, mortality, capacity for evil. Self-consciousness is humanity's greatest gift and deepest curse. One response to that burden is self-hatred. But Peterson's radical proposition, you are someone. Someone has to take care of you. Why not you? Think about how you treat someone you love. Patient, nourishing, encouraging, setting boundaries. Now imagine treating yourself that way. Not narcissistic indulgence, but genuine care, recognizing you're a complicated creature with needs that must be met to function, let alone thrive. This is about becoming your own benevolent parent. Ask yourself, what would be good for me? Not, what do I want? These are fundamentally different questions. You might want to stay up until 3 eating ice cream, but would that be good for you? Would your body thank you tomorrow? Real self-care is eating vegetables when you want pizza, going to bed at a reasonable hour, having difficult conversations, saying no when needed. You're stuck with yourself for your entire life. You might as well be a good guardian. Rule 3. Make friends with people who want the best for you. 2 kinds of friends. The first calls at 2 a.m. drunk, broke, stranded. Again. You pick 'em up. Again. 6 months later, same bar, same bad decisions. The second calls at 2 a.m. because they had a breakthrough. They're excited, struggling honestly, trusting you with vulnerability. Which friendship makes you better? Some people need you to stay broken, so they don't feel bad about being broken. They're drowning, and instead of learning to swim, they'll pull you under. not from malice, but desperation. Here's the thing about rescue. It only works if they want to be rescued. If someone's committed to their misery, made an identity of victimhood, using problems as excuses not to grow, you can't save them. You can sacrifice your well-being in a futile attempt, creating 2 drowning people instead of 1. This isn't about abandoning struggling people. It's recognizing the difference between someone struggling upward and someone committed to going down. Real friendship means wanting the best for each other, celebrating victories instead of feeling threatened, telling hard truths when necessary. Flip it. Are you the friend who wants the best for others? Or are you unconsciously sabotaging people because their success makes you feel inadequate? Choose people who see your potential and want to help you reach it. Be that kind of friend to others. And if someone consistently drags you down despite your best efforts, love them from a distance. Rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Social media made us comparison machines. You wake up, check Instagram, and suddenly your messy bedroom is compared to someone's curated apartment. LinkedIn shows that college friend is now a VP. Facebook shows everyone on vacation, getting engaged, living their best lives. You're in pajamas at noon eating cereal, wondering where you went wrong. This is the tyranny of comparison, and it's killing us. When you compare to others, you're playing a rigged game. There will always be someone smarter, more successful, better looking. Always measure your worth by how you stack up, and you're setting yourself up for perpetual inadequacy. But you're comparing their highlight reel to your behind the scenes, their finished product to your struggles, their outside to your inside. Life is too complicated for simple rankings. You might be behind in career, but ahead in relationships. Financially struggling, but emotionally resilient. How do you rank these? You can't. But you can measure yourself against yourself. Take stock of where you are, not where you should be, where you actually are. Now ask, what can I improve? What small step can I take today that makes tomorrow slightly better? Notice the word small. Peterson emphasizes incremental improvement, not massive transformations. Just steady, consistent progress. Want to get in shape? Comparing yourself to someone training for years is demoralizing. But comparing to last week, actionable. Worked out once last week? Aim for twice this week. 10 push-ups? Try 11 tomorrow. This shift redefines success. Success isn't reaching some arbitrary external standard. Success is growth. Success is trajectory. Viktor Frankl said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When you compare to yesterday, you create your own why. You're making progress, and progress gives meaning to suffering. The catch? You must be honest. No pretending you're making progress when you're regressing. Look clearly at past and present self. Sometimes we don't want to compare because we're ashamed. We've gone backward, broken promises to ourselves. That's okay. That's human. Start again, right now. Compare who you are at the end of today to the beginning. Did you do one thing that made you slightly better? That's enough. Because if you do that every day, you'll wake up a year from now barely recognizing yourself. Not because you beat others, but because you became someone new through patient, persistent growth. Rule 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. This might be the most controversial rule. Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. What kind of parenting is that? But Peterson isn't talking about conditional love. He's talking about socialization. Picture a restaurant. Kids running around, screaming, climbing on furniture, throwing food. Parents sit exhausted, doing nothing. They've decided discipline is harmful, boundaries crush spirits, saying no is damaging. Meanwhile, everyone else quietly suffers and quietly dislikes those children. If strangers dislike your child based on behavior, what does that mean for their future? The world won't tolerate what you tolerate. If you allow your child to be bratty, entitled, aggressive, they'll face harsh consequences when they leave your protection. Teachers won't like them. Kids won't play with them. Employers won't hire them. Partners won't stay. You're not protecting your child by refusing discipline. You're crippling them. Children need boundaries. They need to understand actions have consequences. Touch a hot stove, you get burned. Hit someone, they hit back. These aren't arbitrary rules. This is how the world works. The instinct to aggression, selfishness, manipulation, these aren't things society puts into children. They're already there. Any parent watching toddlers fight knows this. Your job isn't preserving pristine innocence. It's socializing a small, uncivilized person into someone who can function in the world. Discipline isn't punishment. Punishment is reactive, angry, focused on suffering. Discipline is proactive, calm, focused on teaching. This behavior is unacceptable. Here's why. Here's the consequence. Here's what you should do instead. Children with clear boundaries are happier, more secure, more confident than children who can do whatever they want. Why? Boundaries make the world predictable. They create safety. Expand this beyond parenting. If you allow people to treat you poorly, manipulate, disrespect, cross boundaries, you'll eventually dislike them. That resentment poisons relationships. Setting boundaries isn't mean. It's necessary for relationships to function. And, personally, do not let yourself do anything that makes you dislike yourself. Consistently violate your values, and you'll develop deep self-loathing that seeps into everything. Are you brave enough to set boundaries when it's uncomfortable? To say no when yes is easier? To face short-term conflict for long-term well-being? Rule 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Clean your room. The rule that launched 1,000 memes. You're angry at the world. Good reasons. Climate change, inequality, corruption, suffering everywhere. You want to fix it, protest, advocate, tear down corrupt structures. And your room is a disaster. Clothes everywhere, dishes in the sink, papers scattered. Your life is chaos. You can't manage your small domain. But you think you're qualified to reorganize society? Start where you are. Fix what you can fix. Take responsibility for your immediate domain before presuming to take responsibility for the world. Your immediate environment reflects and affects your psychological state. Surrounded by chaos, you reinforce chaos in your mind. Ignore disorder right in front of you, and avoidance becomes habit. Cleaning your room is bringing order to chaos, taking one piece of the world and improving it. Proving to yourself that improvement is possible, that you have agency. It's easy to blame the world. If only society were different, I'd be successful. If only the system weren't rigged, I'd be happy. This is victim mentality, and Peterson has zero patience for it. Not because suffering isn't real, but because victim mentality is paralyzing. If everything wrong is someone else's fault, you have no power to change it. But accept responsibility, even for things not entirely your fault, and you gain power. You can act. Ask yourself, what have I done wrong that I could fix? What am I doing wrong that I could stop? What am I avoiding that I should confront? Uncomfortable questions, but empowering. Because unlike fixing the world's problems, fixing your own problems is achievable. Peterson brings in Cain and Abel. Cain kills his brother because God favors Abel's sacrifice. But why? Abel offered his best lamb. Cain offered random grain half-heartedly. When his half-hearted effort was rejected, instead of improving, he lashed out. This is the psychology of resentment. The world rejected me. Society's unfair. So I'll destroy something good. The antidote is taking responsibility, making your life better in ways you can control, rather than blaming the world for ways you can't. Look around your life. What's within your power to improve? Your room, health, relationships, work ethic, habits, character. Start there, fix what you can fix. And maybe, once you've created order in your own life, you'll have earned the right and developed the capability to help create order in the world. But until then, clean your room. Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. You're tired. Long day. You come home. Binge watch television and order pizza? That's expedient, easy, immediately gratifying. Or hit the gym, meal prep, work on that project, meaningful, harder, but moving towards something greater. Expediency is about immediate payoff. Meaning is about sacrifice for a better future. And meaning is the only thing that makes life bearable. Why? Because life is suffering, pain, loss, betrayal, illness, death. These are facts. Not through happiness. It's fleeting. But meaning? Meaning sustains you through suffering. Meaningful suffering is bearable, sometimes preferable to meaningless pleasure. How do you create meaning? Through sacrifice. Voluntary acceptance of responsibility. Pursuing something greater than yourself. Working a difficult job for your family. Staying up all night with a sick child. Years of education. Standing up for what's right when it costs you. Choosing the difficult path because it leads somewhere meaningful. Modern culture constantly tells us, pursue what feels good, follow your bliss, do what makes you happy, treat yourself. This is a trap. Only do what feels good in the moment, and you'll end up nowhere good. Out of shape, broke, in toxic relationships, addicted, unfulfilled. Things worth having require sacrifice. Good relationships require communication and effort. Meaningful careers require years of development. Healthy bodies require discipline. Character requires repeatedly choosing right over easy. Evil isn't just doing bad things. Evil is taking the easy path when you know the right path. Lying because truth is hard. Betraying because loyalty requires sacrifice. Destroying because creating is difficult. The expedient path is incremental moral decay. One compromise leads to another until you wake up not recognizing yourself. But the meaningful path? Incremental growth. One right choice leads to another until you wake up someone you respect. How do you know what's meaningful? Pay attention to your conscience. That voice telling you when you're taking the easy way out. Betraying values. Being less than you could be. Ignore it enough it goes silent. Listen and it becomes clearer. Imagine you're in a relationship that isn't working. You know it. But leaving is hard. Conflict, pain, disruption. So you stay. The expedient path. But every day you stay, you're betraying yourself, choosing comfort over truth. That betrayal manifests as resentment, depression, anxiety. The meaningful path. Have the difficult conversation. Face the truth. Accept the pain of change because it leads somewhere better. Stop pursuing what's easy. Stop pursuing what feels good in the moment. Pursue what's meaningful. What resonates with your deepest values. What requires you to become more than you are. The meaningful path is harder, but it's the only path that makes life worth living. Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Truth is the antidote to chaos. Why do people lie? Not just to avoid consequences, to manipulate reality, to serve short-term interests. You lie about where you were to avoid an argument, about your drinking to avoid admitting a problem, about why you're late to avoid facing disorganization. Each lie is a small attempt to bend reality to your will. Make the world conform to what you want rather than confronting what is. Short term, it works. The lie protects you, conflict avoided, discomfort postponed. Long term, the lie creates a gap between perception and reality. That gap grows. One lie requires another. Before long, you're living in a house of cards. One moment when reality can't be denied, and everything collapses. Peterson tells stories from clinical practice, people whose entire lives were built on lies. The person who lied about education, spending decades anxiously maintaining it. The cheater constructing elaborate false lives. The person who lied about feelings until they didn't know what they felt. These lies don't just affect others. They corrupt the liar, create internal fragmentation. You become divided, the person you present versus who you actually are. That division is psychologically devastating. This is partly why depression and anxiety are so prevalent. People living lies, pretending to be happy when miserable, pretending relationships are fine when falling apart, pretending they're pursuing meaningful goals when just drifting. The lie doesn't make the problem disappear, it makes it invisible, and invisible problems grow. So what does telling the truth mean? First, speaking honestly. When asked how you're doing, don't say fine if you're not. When you disagree, say so. When you've made a mistake, admit it. Not brutal or tactless. Speak truth as you understand it. Honest, not cruel. Second, living truthfully. Actions align with words. Say you value health but eat garbage? You're lying. Say family's important but never spend time with them? Lying. Say you want growth but avoid challenges? Lying. Third, being honest with yourself. Hardest part, we're skilled at self-deception, rationalizing bad behaviors, telling ourselves stories making us the hero or victim, avoiding our own contributions to problems. Assume you're wrong about something, assume you're deceiving yourself, then try to figure out what it is. Ask, what am I pretending not to know? What truth am I avoiding? What am I afraid to confront? Uncomfortable questions, but necessary to live in reality rather than comforting fiction. Peterson references Solzhenitsyn, who survived Soviet gulags and wrote about refusing to lie. In a totalitarian system built on lies, refusing to participate is revolutionary. Dangerous, but the only way to maintain humanity. We face pressure to conform, to go along, and every time you speak uncomfortable truth, every time you refuse to participate in a lie, you're exercising moral courage. That courage builds, becomes easier, you become stronger. So start today. Stop lying, not just to others but yourself. Catch yourself about to say something untrue. Stop. Tell the truth or say nothing. Notice yourself rationalizing a bad habit. Stop. Admit the truth. I'm not working late for good reasons. I'm avoiding a difficult conversation with my partner. Realize you've been lying to yourself. Confess it. To yourself, at minimum. This is hard, really hard. But Peterson's promise, the truth will set you free. Maybe not immediately, maybe not without consequences, but ultimately living in reality is the only way to solve problems, grow, become who you're capable of becoming. The lie might protect you today, but the truth will save you in the long run. Rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. We live in an age of certainty. Everyone has opinions. Everyone knows they're right. And when someone disagrees, we don't listen to understand. We listen to find flaws so we can destroy them. Peterson's 9th rule challenges this. Assume the person you're listening to might know something you don't. Reality. You don't know everything. You can't. The world is too complicated. Every person has experiences you haven't had, knows things you don't, sees patterns you haven't seen. Approach every conversation assuming you already know better, and you cut yourself off from learning. You make yourself stupid. But more, you make yourself rigid. And rigid things break. Life is unpredictable. Things change. New challenges emerge. If you're locked into your worldview, convinced you understand everything, you won't adapt when reality doesn't conform to expectations. But if you remain open, genuinely listen to people, especially those you disagree with, you stay flexible, update understanding, grow. When someone's talking, don't formulate your response. Don't look for weak points. Try to understand what they're actually saying. See the world from their perspective. Ask, what would the world have to be like for this statement to be true? What experiences might lead them to this conclusion? Doesn't mean you agree, but it means taking them seriously, treating them as a thinking person who might have insights you lack. There's a deeper point. When you truly listen, you're not just gathering information, you're helping them think. Most people don't know what they think until they articulate it. Speaking, putting feelings into words is thinking itself. And when you listen, really listen, you facilitate that process. That friend who needs to vent, they might not need advice. They might just need you to listen while they work through their own thoughts. That family member you disagree with, try asking questions. Help me understand. What led you to that conclusion? Can you explain what you see that I'm missing? This disarms people. They're expecting an argument. When you genuinely try to understand, they soften, become more thoughtful, and ironically, become more open to your perspective because you demonstrated openness to theirs. Peterson argues you should especially listen to people you disagree with. They're most likely to reveal your blind spots. People who agree reinforce what you believe. Feels good, but doesn't help you grow. People who disagree, if you can get past defensiveness, show where your thinking is weak, arguments don't hold up, where you might be wrong. Intellectually humbling, but intellectually rigorous. The rule doesn't mean listen to everyone endlessly. Some aren't engaging in good faith. Some waste your time or manipulate. Peterson acknowledges this. Assume, at the outset, that they might know something you don't. Give them a chance. Listen genuinely. But if it becomes clear they're not interested in actual conversation, disengage. Practical technique. When someone tells you something, summarize it back. So what I hear you saying is, this ensures you understood, makes them feel heard, making them more receptive to hearing you. Especially powerful in conflicts. When two people argue, usually neither listens, both waiting for their turn. But if you break that pattern, demonstrate you've genuinely understood their position, the entire dynamic changes. The underlying wisdom is epistemic humility. Recognize the limits of your knowledge. You're one person with one perspective from one set of experiences. Others have different perspectives from different experiences. All contain some truth. Reality is complicated enough that multiple partial perspectives can all be valid. The person who disagrees isn't necessarily wrong. They might be seeing a different facet of the same complex truth. So enter conversations with genuine curiosity. Assume you might learn something. Listen more than you talk. Ask questions instead of making statements. You'll learn more, grow more, relationships will improve, and ironically, you'll become more persuasive, because people who feel heard actually consider your perspective. Rule 10. Be precise in your speech. Words matter. Yet we're vague, imprecise. We use euphemisms and generalizations. Say, things are fine when they're not. Say, I'm a little upset when furious. Say, we should hang out sometime, with no intention of hanging out. Peterson's 10th rule, precision matters. Why? Chaos is made of what you don't know and refuse to see. And one primary way we avoid seeing is through imprecise language. You're unhappy in your job, but instead of identifying specifically what's making you unhappy, you just say, I hate my job. That's imprecise. And because it's imprecise, you can't do anything about it. But get precise. I hate how my boss micromanages every task. I hate that I'm not learning anything new. I hate the 2-hour commute. Now you have specific problems. And specific problems can be solved, maybe conversation with your boss, maybe request different responsibilities, maybe negotiate remote work. Precision transforms vague, overwhelming problems into concrete, manageable challenges. In mythology, the hero always confronts the dragon. But you can't fight a formless enemy. You must identify it, name it, make it specific. This is the psychological power of naming. Knowing something's true name gives you power over it. Not superstition, wisdom. When you can precisely articulate what's wrong, you've already begun gaining control. People come to therapy with vague complaints. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. My relationship isn't working. The therapist gets precise. Anxious about what specifically? In what situations? What triggers it? What are you afraid will happen? When people get precise, the problem becomes less overwhelming. Formless anxiety transforms into, I'm afraid my boss will fire me because I made a mistake last week. Still a problem, but manageable. You can evaluate whether the fear is realistic, take actions to address it. There's also a relational dimension. Imprecise speech in relationships is toxic. Your partner asks, "What's wrong?" You say nothing, but something is clearly wrong. This poisons the relationship. Your partner doesn't know what they did. Can't fix it. Resentment builds. But if you're precise, "I'm upset that you committed us to dinner plans without asking me first. I had a difficult week and needed a quiet evening." Now your partner understands. Can apologize. Can change behavior. Conflict can be resolved. Precision doesn't mean cruelty. You don't say every harsh thing you think. But be honest and specific about what you're experiencing and what you need. Applies to positive feedback too. Don't just say "good job." Say, "I appreciated how you handled that difficult client. Your patience and creative solution were impressive." Precision makes praise meaningful. Imprecise speech allows self-deception. When you're vague about problems, you avoid confronting them. Vague about goals, you avoid the work of achieving them. Vague about values, you avoid the difficulty of living them. Precision cuts through all that, forces you to confront reality. God asks Adam, "Where are you?" after eating the forbidden fruit. Peterson argues this isn't about physical location, it's about psychological and moral location. Where are you in your life? What are you hiding from? What are you refusing to see? Being precise in speech is answering that question honestly. Here's exactly where I am. Here's exactly what I'm dealing with. Here's exactly what I need to confront. Imprecision enables tyranny. Totalitarian regimes rely on vague, shifting language. Words don't mean anything stable. Makes it impossible to mount coherent opposition. Personally, we do this to ourselves. Make vague commitments we never keep. Set vague goals we never achieve. Have vague anxieties we never name. Vagueness keeps us stuck. The antidote is precision. Say what you mean what you say. Be specific about problems, specific about goals, specific about needs and boundaries. This will make you uncomfortable. Precision requires courage because it exposes you. When you're vague, you have plausible deniability. But when you're precise, you're committed. You've said exactly what you mean, and now you stand behind it. But that commitment is also liberating. When you know exactly what you think, want, and face, you can act, make plans, solve problems, grow. Pay attention to your language. Catch yourself being vague. Stop. Get specific. "I'm stressed" becomes, "I'm overwhelmed by these 3 specific deadlines." "I need space" becomes, "I need 2 hours alone tonight to decompress." "Things aren't working" becomes, "I'm frustrated we never discuss finances, and I'm worried about spending." Harder to be precise. Requires more thought. Requires facing things you'd rather avoid. But it's the only way to actually engage with reality, instead of drifting in a fog of vague dissatisfaction. Words matter. Use them precisely, and watch how much clearer and more manageable your life becomes. Rule 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. Weirdest title in the book. Intentionally provocative. What Peterson's really talking about: increasing intolerance for risk, particularly the tendency to overprotect young people from danger, robbing them of opportunities to develop competence and courage. Imagine a kid on a skateboard, attempting a trick. It's dangerous. He might fall, get hurt. The protective parent's instinct: stop him. That's too dangerous. Come down. You're going to hurt yourself. Yes, he might get hurt. That's kind of the point. Children, especially boys, though not exclusively, need to engage with risk. Test themselves against danger. Voluntarily confront what scares them. This is how they develop courage, competence, confidence. Prevent children from taking any risks. And you're not keeping them safe. You're keeping them weak, preventing them from developing psychological tools they'll need for genuine dangers of adult life. Evolutionary argument. For millions of years, young humans had to develop physical courage, learn to hunt, fight, navigate dangerous terrain. Those who couldn't face danger didn't survive. We still have those instincts. Young people still crave that test. If we don't provide legitimate challenges, they'll seek illegitimate ones. This is part of why we see so much destructive behavior in young people. They need a dragon to fight. If we don't give them a constructive dragon, they'll find a destructive one. Skateboarding is Peterson's example of a constructive dragon, risky but manageable. The kid against gravity and his own fear. When he succeeds, lands that trick, he's proven something to himself. He's braver than before. But Peterson's talking about a broader cultural shift toward safety above all. Safe spaces, trigger warnings, removal of anything potentially offensive or challenging or difficult. Peterson sees this as catastrophic, not because safety doesn't matter, but because risk is necessary for growth, discomfort for development, challenge for competence. The concept of anti-fragile, from Nassim Taleb. Some things are fragile, they break under stress. Some resilient, they resist stress. But some anti-fragile, they get stronger under stress. Muscles are anti-fragile. Stress them through exercise, they grow stronger. Immune system is anti-fragile. Expose it to pathogens, it develops defenses. Human psychology is anti-fragile too. You need to face challenges, overcome obstacles, confront fears. This is how you grow, how you develop into a functional adult. But if we bubble wrap young people, remove every challenge, every risk, every source of discomfort, we create fragile adults. Adults who can't handle disagreement, who collapse under pressure, who are terrified of the world. This rule isn't just about children, it's about adults too. How many adults are living risk-free lives? How many have optimized for safety and security at the expense of growth and meaning? You stay in the job you hate because it's secure, the relationship killing you slowly because leaving is scary. Never pursue dreams because they might fail. Never try anything new because you might look foolish. This is death by safety. You're alive, but not living. Peterson's challenge: voluntarily accept risk. Not stupidly, not recklessly, but courageously. Try what scares you, have the difficult conversation, pursue the ambitious goal, test yourself against genuine challenges. The paradox: the safe path isn't actually safe. Staying small, weak, comfortable, leaves you unprepared when life inevitably throws something difficult at you, and it will. The person who's developed courage, competence, and strength through voluntarily confronting challenges, they're prepared, anti-fragile, they can handle what life throws. Don't seek safety above all else. Seek growth, challenge, the voluntary acceptance of risk for meaningful goals. Let children test themselves. Let yourself test yourself. Face the dragon. Discover you're braver than you thought. Rule 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. We've reached the final rule. The most tender, personal, painfully wise. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. This rule is about finding beauty and meaning in a world filled with suffering. Paying attention to small moments of joy especially when, life is overwhelmingly difficult. Peterson wrote this thinking about his daughter, who suffered from severe health problems since childhood. Years of constant pain, debilitating arthritis, conditions doctors struggled to diagnose or treat. He and his family watched her suffer, unable to fix it, unable to make it better. This is perhaps the hardest thing in life, witnessing someone you love suffer, and being powerless to stop it. So what do? How do you continue when life is that hard? You pet the cat. You notice the small, beautiful things, moment of sunlight through a window, smile from a stranger, the purring cat that allows you to pet it on the street. These aren't solutions to suffering. Don't make big problems disappear, but they're reminders that despite suffering, despite tragedy, despite unfairness, there's still beauty, still goodness, still something worth experiencing. Peterson calls this limited horizon awareness. When the future is too overwhelming, when the big picture is too dark, you narrow your focus. Focus on getting through this day, this hour, this moment. and in that moment you find something to appreciate. You pet the cat. This isn't toxic positivity. Peterson isn't saying pretend everything is fine, not saying ignore or minimize suffering. He's saying that even in the midst of genuine tragedy, you have to find reasons to continue. And sometimes those reasons are small, sometimes as simple as a friendly cat. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, describes surviving Nazi concentration camps partly by noticing small moments of beauty, a sunset, a tree, a kind gesture from another prisoner. These tiny moments kept his spirit alive when everything argued for despair. Peterson also addresses whether it's worth bringing children into such a suffering-filled world. If life is so hard, if suffering is inevitable, is it ethical to create new people who will suffer? Peterson's answer: life is worth living despite suffering. And part of what makes it worth living is precisely those small moments of beauty, connection, meaning. Your child will suffer, guaranteed. But they'll also experience joy, love, wonder, accomplishment. They'll pet cats, see sunsets, form deep relationships, and if you raise them well, they'll develop strength to bear their suffering and find their own meaning. This rule is also about paying attention to the present moment. We're often so caught up in plans, worries, regrets that we miss what's right in front of us. Walk past 100 beautiful things without noticing, because we're lost in thought about problems we can't solve right now. The practice of petting the cat is the practice of presence, being here, now, in this moment, experiencing this small good thing. Peterson connects this to gratitude, not forced, toxic gratitude that minimizes problems, but genuine appreciation for the small goods that exist alongside suffering. Psychologically important. Despair comes from seeing only the negative. Hope comes from maintaining perspective, acknowledging the negative, but recognizing the positive. When you're going through something terrible, you get through it minute by minute, day by day. Can't think about the whole journey. Too overwhelming. Just focus on the next small step, the next small good thing. Get out of bed, take a shower, eat something, pet the cat. These tiny actions become lifelines. This is perhaps the wisest and most compassionate rule. It acknowledges suffering's reality without drowning in it, recognizes life is hard without concluding life isn't worth living. It says, yes, life is suffering. Yes, tragedy is real. Yes, things are often unfair and painful. And also, pet the cat. Notice the sunset. Appreciate the small kindnesses. Find the moments of beauty. Because that's how you survive, how you maintain your humanity, how you keep going when keeping going seems impossible. So when you encounter a cat on the street, or a dog, or a beautiful tree, or a kind stranger, or a moment of sunlight, or anything small and good, stop. Notice it. Appreciate it. Let it remind you that despite everything, there's still beauty in the world. There's still something worth experiencing. Closing. 12 rules for life. From standing up straight like a lobster to petting cats on the street, from cleaning your room to telling the truth, from choosing meaningful suffering over expedient pleasure to assuming people might know something you don't. There's a coherent philosophy running through all of them. Life is difficult. Suffering is inevitable. The world is complex and often unfair. You're imperfect and capable of both good and evil. But despite all of this, or perhaps because of it, you have a responsibility to bear your burden well, find meaning in the struggle, develop your character, and make things incrementally better. Peterson isn't offering easy answers. He's not promising that if you follow these rules, your life will be perfect. He's saying if you follow them, your life might be bearable, and if you're really diligent, it might even be meaningful. The underlying worldview is responsibility, not victimhood, not nihilism, not utopian fantasy, but sober, clear-eyed acceptance that you're here, you exist, and you have to figure out how to live. Some find this empowering. It gives them agency, tells them that despite circumstances, despite limitations, they can make choices that matter. Others find it harsh. They see Peterson as lacking compassion, ignoring structural injustices, placing too much burden on the individual. Both reactions are understandable. Peterson is challenging. He refuses to let you off the hook, refuses to say your problems are entirely someone else's fault, insists you have more power than you think and more responsibility than you want. Whether you agree or not, 12 Rules for Life has clearly touched something deep in contemporary culture. Millions have found meaning in these rules, found a framework for making sense of their lives. Maybe it's because we're living in a time of particular chaos and confusion. Traditional structures have broken down, old certainties dissolved. People are looking for guidance, wisdom, someone to tell them clearly what they should do. And Peterson, for better or worse, is willing to tell them, stand up straight, take responsibility, tell the truth, face the dragon, clean your room. These are old ideas, really, not revolutionary, wisdom that's been around for thousands of years, but perhaps that's part of their power. In a world obsessed with novelty, there's something grounding about being reminded of ancient truths. So what do you do with all of this? You don't have to accept every rule wholesale, don't have to agree with everything Peterson says, but maybe ask yourself which of these rules resonates. Which one makes you uncomfortable? Which one do you most need to hear? Whatever your situation, whatever your struggle, there's probably something in these 12 rules that speaks to you. Not because Peterson has all the answers, but because these rules address fundamental human challenges we all face. Life is difficult. So what are you going to do about it? That's really the question at the heart of this book, not why is life so hard, but given that life is hard, how will you respond? Will you stand up or collapse? Will you take responsibility or blame others? Will you tell the truth or live a lie? Will you face the dragon or hide from it? Will you notice the beauty or drown in the suffering? These are choices you make every day, in small ways and large ways, and those choices, accumulated over time, become your life. So maybe the real rule, the one that underlies all 12, is this: act as if your choices matter, because they do. Thanks for listening. Now go clean your room,